Alright guys, it's finally time to do the swap. As you can see, and as you've seen before, I've already got my Dana 30 front end in for the two-wheel drive conversion to four-wheel drive. And now it's the moment that I've been waiting for, that you guys have probably been waiting for, and that is get rid of this two-wheel drive transmission, slap in the four-wheel drive transmission and transfer case that I got from the junkyard, and this thing will be four-wheel drive. Hopefully it goes smooth. So first thing I'm going to do is just take off this rear drive shaft here. So I'm just going to undo these 8mm bolts on the drive shaft strap there, and we'll get the drive shaft out of there. Alright, so I got my drive shaft bolts off. Make sure you put a pan down because your tranny probably going to leak some fluid. Alright, so there's just a couple things we got to unhook down here. You want to unhook your throttle cable or kickdown cable up in the engine bay, and I'll show you that in a minute. You want to unhook your shifter rod down there. You want to unhook all your plugs up there in the engine bay if you can get to them, and your transmission cooler lines on this side. I don't know if you guys can see those, probably not. And then I'm probably just gonna take off my cross member here, just probably unbolt them here. If it's stock, you're gonna have a bolt and then a stud that you have to take out. You have to take the nut off and then the bolt off. I put this transmission drop that I made, and I put that in there, so I've just got two bolts that I have to take out on each side. And I might have to take the exhaust off. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm gonna start unhooking stuff. Alright guys, so as you can see, we just got the two-wheel drive transmission out of the Jeep Cherokee, the 96 that I've been working on. We finally got to the four-wheel drive swap on this thing after having the Dana 30 in it for over a year now. It was a pretty nasty job, as you can see, but luckily with the help of my buddy Cody here and my brother Garrison behind the camera, we were able to pull it out pretty easy. We got the junkyard transmission over here, the four-wheel drive transmission, and then Cody's holding the transfer case. I got those all painted up and just put the last seal in today, so it's got all new seals in them. And hopefully the transmission and transfer case work. I mean, I got both of them at a junkyard, you know, but I didn't want to pay for a new one, and so it is what it is. They have pretty low miles on them. This one's got over 200,000, and you know, AW4s are pretty tough. So all I'm going to do is swap all of my electrical components over, all my wiring and everything, and I'll try to slap it in there and hope it works. Finally, this thing will be four-wheel drive. Now if I can just cure the death wobble. Alright guys, so as you can see, I got my oil pan off of my Jeep here, and I figured while I had the transmission out, I might as well do the oil pan gasket and the rear main seal, because they both have been leaking a little bit, seeping. Getting ready to try to drop the girdle here and clean off the block here, the sealing surface, get rid of that oil gasket and everything, and take the rear cap off and try to slip that rear main seal in there. Alright guys, well, I just got done pretty much installing the four-wheel drive transmission in my Jeep Cherokee here, along with the transfer case that I got at the junkyard. Got the exhaust back in, obviously got the cross member in, new transmission mount. Got to finish putting my exhaust back together. I got the starter back on, and I got to hook up my transmission lines over there. I am going to do a flush of the transmission Most of the fluid is out because I had the torque converter off, obviously, and I had the pan off and replaced the pan gasket on the transmission. But there was a little bit of water in the transmission pan, the bottom of the pan, when I took it off, and some gunky, milky white stuff. I had no idea what it was. I guess just water mixed with tranny fluid. So I'm hoping that the transmission is going to be okay, especially after all this work putting it in, but it's what you get. You take a gamble from buying stuff from the junkyard, so all I can do is try it and hope for the best. It looked like it was kind of localized or constrained just to the pan itself, so hopefully that's it. But I do want to try to flush it before I leave the fluid in there. So I'm gonna put some transmission fluid in it and disconnect the return line and put it into like a milk jug or something, so I know how much is coming out, and just run the engine just for a little bit, just to try to pump some of that whatever else is in there out, and then refill it. You just got to be careful doing that, and make sure you don't run it dry, obviously. And I've also heard that if the transmission is old, or like if the fluid looks brown, like burnt, then you shouldn't flush it, because it can make your transmission start slipping. So what fluid I did see in the transmission in this one looked pretty red, so hopefully that's not the case. But if there's any water in there, I want to try to get that out. And then also I want to see, I think most of the fluid is out of the transfer case, but I'm going to open up the bottom just to make sure if it's all out, and then I'll fill that up as well. And then I've got to finish cleaning and painting my drive shaft, my rear drive shaft. The front one is done. I had two different rear drive shafts that I got from the junkyard. Both of them came from Cherokees, supposedly with 231s, but I didn't know what rear axle they had. On the first one, the drive shaft was already out of the vehicle, so I didn't get to look at the diff. But the other one I took out of the Jeep at the junkyard. I forgot to look at the rear axle, so I didn't know they had two different links. But this one is the longer of the two and the better of the two, and I held it up, and it looks like it's gonna fit fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean it and paint it and put new U-joints in, and I have new U-joints for it, and do that. But before I do that, I'll probably go ahead and run the engine and try to flush the transmission out and shift through the gears, make sure it's gonna shift all right. Let's see what else I've been doing to it. I'm putting new oil in it because I drained the oil, because I did a oil pan gasket and rear main seal. You don't have to do it with the transmission out, but it's a lot easier to get to everything down there, so that's why I went ahead and did it, because it's been leaking pretty bad. So got that out of the way. I wanted to do the O-rings, see if I can make it focus, the O-rings on the oil filter adapter down there, but it is a pain in the ass, because you have to have a torque spit. I think it's a T60, and you have to jack the engine up, disconnect the motor mount and jack it up to try to get it off, to be able to get enough space between that point down here in the unibody. And I did that, and I still couldn't do it with the socket that I had. So mine's not leaking that bad, so I just said screw it, I'll wait until I need motor mounts, which I kind of do, but I'll wait a little while on that, just because I want to get this thing back together and make sure that transmission works. So I didn't want to spend another couple days, which would turn out to be a couple weeks, because I only have like a few days off a week, spaced out. They're not together, so it ends up being like 2 weeks, for me to get anything done on this thing usually. So, if it starts leaking bad, then I'll deal with it. But right now it's just kind of seeping. So, but anyways, that's why I'm putting oil in, because I had to drain the oil, obviously, for the pan gasket. I got all my wires hooked up. I just used the wires from the four-wheel drive transmission. It had wires on it when I got it, but I think I could have swapped over most of the wires on the two-wheel drive transmission. I had been planning on doing that, but the shift solenoids in the transmission, the plugs were slightly different, so I just left them alone, and got my crank sensor hooked back up over there. This is the two-wheel drive one. I have another one that was on the four-wheel drive transmission, so maybe a spare. but this one's been working okay. I'll show you, I forgot to show you down here. I have got my four-wheel drive linkage. Focus. There we go. I got the four-wheel drive linkage in there, kind of. I know it looks rough. I didn't paint it because I want to get something else. I think there's a Boost Works, I think is what it's called, kit that's like 40 bucks or something, and it flips around your transfer case shift lever here, flips it 180 degrees, and then it goes directly with one rod from that lever to the shift lever. So it gets rid of all this bracketry and all the crazy linkage and everything. So that's what I would like to do, but it was out of stock when I looked at their website a couple days ago, so might have to wait on that, and that's why I went ahead and put this stuff in there just so I could see if I could get it to shift at all. But some of these rubber grommets where the shifter goes are screwed up. They're all hard and brittle, so I might have to jury rig it a little bit just to get it to work, just so I can test out the transfer case and you know, figure it out from there. The cable hooked up all right there. You can see I got my pan painted gray, and got the it's like a primer, the self-etching primer for the transmission and the transfer case. I just like to color the color, so I primed it and cleaned, and then cleared it. Got the oil pan, same gray up there. I think it looks good. So hopefully nothing leaks. I put new seals and everything, and yeah, I'll go ahead and finish putting this thing back together, and wish me luck, because I'm gonna need it probably. And if this thing, you know, runs and drives after I get it done, then I just gotta fix the death wobble. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but I do have a drop track bar bracket coming to replace the stock one. I wanted to stay away from those because I've heard bad things about them, but it's the only thing I can think of that could be causing a problem, because I've fixed everything else, or done everything else really, and that's my drag link and my track bar are a different angle. You can't really tell it now because it's drooping, but if it's sitting level, they are still a different angle. Not much off, and I didn't think it would be a problem, but again, like I said, I've done everything else that people usually say fixes death wobble, and I still have it, so I'm hoping that's all it is, or at least I'm hoping that'll fix it. If not, well, I don't know. I'll figure something out, I guess. But I'm anxious to get this thing back to daily driver status. So, alright, enough talking. Need to get back to work and finish this thing. Alright, what's up guys? So I just wanted to make a quick video clip, just kind of talking about what I'm doing right now. As you can see, this is the four-wheel drive shifter from my Jeep Cherokee. I got this from the junkyard for my 4x4 swap on my 96 out there, and I had it installed, and I was going to try to use all the factory linkage and all them crazy brackets and linkages and everything, and so I got those out of a different Cherokee from a different junkyard, and the little rubber grommets for the shift rods, they were junk and hard, and some of them were missing, and so I wasn't able to use that linkage when I put the transfer case in there to test it out. And I've kind of been wanting something else, something better, because even when it is new, you know, or in better shape than mine was from the junkyard, you still have, a lot of people still have problems with them, like binding and not going into gear and everything. So I know there's the one from, I think, Novak, like the cable shifter. I don't know if they have a, I thought I read a couple days ago that they have like a mechanical linkage as well. But I know the cable shifter is really nice, but it's pretty expensive, so I didn't want to go that route right now. And I came across this other one from a guy or a company called BoostWorks Engineering, and this one is a kit for the 231 transfer case like I have, and the automatic transmission, and so it was like $37 plus some shipping and plus a little bit for an extra bracket, because I have a transfer case drop on mine. and so I'm working on installing it right now, and that's why I had the shifter back out. So this is the rod. It basically takes your transfer case shift tab and it flips it 180 degrees, and it includes a new tab to go with it, and you bolt this rod up to that tab and then up to this one, and it's like a direct linkage to the top of the new tab on the transfer case. I've seen some reviews on it. It seems like it works pretty well, and it's obviously a lot simpler, and it looks like a pretty nice kit. Came with some instructions, and at a pretty good price too. So I just got done putting this tab on the shifter. You have to I think this may be just for the transfer case drop, because you have some adjustment here depending on how much your transfer case is dropped. So I had to drill a hole in the original tab so I can have the adjustment and put 2 bolts on there. And I'm getting ready to bolt this back in and see if I can hook everything up a little bit loose and test it out. So just want to talk about that real quick. I'll show you guys when I get it done. So that's what it looks like installed in the Jeep. The brackets look a little different. I think if you have just the regular version instead of the drop transfer case version, you got a couple positions here, a couple holes you can adjust it, and same thing with this bracket here. You can move that bracket up and down a little bit, and you can see what I was saying. It flips the bracket on the transfer case 180 degrees, because usually the stock one sticks down, so makes it a direct connection between the shifter and the transfer case, which is a heck of a lot simpler. Gets rid of this big bracket that was on the side of the transmission there, as well as this bracket up here and all that crazy linkage and stuff there. So obviously I don't have my front drive shaft in. I'm getting ready to put that in. I'm gonna put the U-joints in the drive shaft, and then I can try it out, see how it feels, and see if the transfer case actually works, because I haven't actually tested that yet since I put it in.